Okay, Super Nintendo Online, I have a few questions for you. First of all, Nat, I have some big burning ones here, but I want to get a small one out of the way first. One that we actually already know a little bit of the answer to first.
Now, first off, before we start, though, I feel like you're not actually going to get any answers because the Super Nintendo Online can't actually answer these for you.
No, it can't. But we did actually get an answer, a little bit of an answer here to the first one, Nat. Not really a proper answer. So my first question that I have for you is, how often are you going to release new games, new Super Nintendo games?
And what was the answer to that?
The answer is that we don't really know, but we know that it's no longer going to be monthly. So, like, it's actually a bad answer. You know, I was hoping they were going to update it constantly with new games and new games.
Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of a punch to the old Super Nintendo gut, Nat.
It is a little bit, isn't it? Because they said the same with the NES, that they're going to stop them as well. So they're not getting monthly releases anymore either.
They kind of, yeah, because they brought these out. They hit the brake on both of them. I'm kind of like, guys, that's not like, you're on a roll here. Don't hit the brake now. Let's keep going.
So I'm assuming they're going to be bringing out, like X amount of games every X amount of months.
Yeah, but the question is how many and what?
Exactly.
So, like, my assumption is that they didn't think they could bring out enough, and that's why they had to put the pedal to the brake and say, let's back this off. But what is that? Like, does that mean we're going to get 6 games every 6 months? Is it worse than that? Like, I'm not talking about Super Nintendo here specifically. What about NES games,
But I feel like if it was 6 in every 6 months, well, it would be like, well, what's the point in stopping the monthly releases? Because that's like just what they would have done everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, stuck with the 2 NES a month and a 1 SNES. So it's like, well, if you're still going to be giving us 6 in 6 months.
You know what my assumption here is? They're going to use these to fill the slow periods now. Because instead of releasing them every month, where it's not a big deal anymore, NES games, a new NES game every month, everyone's just kind of like, okay, cool, more NES games. I mean, they were NES games, so like,
exactly.
You already get so much news out of them in the first place. But now, like, every time there's a little bit of a slow period, a bit of a lull between games, all of a sudden Nintendo comes in with a 1-2 punch, and bam, there it is, 6 more Super Nintendo games.
1-2 punch, I like it.
6 more Super Nintendo games, Nat, and a few NES games scattered across it, and then everyone's like, okay, wicked, like this, it doesn't look like a slow period anymore.
And it might entice some people to buy it online if they don't already, because they're like, well, I don't really have anything to play at the moment, so I'll just buy it and get some SNES games.
Exactly, so it kind of works as well for them. I think that's maybe what they're going to, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe like I'm just being overcritical and letting this punch me to the gut when it doesn't really need to.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, maybe we should just wait and see what happens. You never know, Nintendo might actually surprise us and we might all be like, that's not actually too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm hoping so, but we don't really know. Now, the second big question here, Nat. Question number 2, Nintendo. What about the special games? Now, you guys know the Nintendo Entertainment System. It had Nintendo Entertainment System special games. And what I mean by this is they were slight remixes. So they might be like, you start halfway through a level. You start in hard mode. I forget some of the other ones. Like Link, you would start with like a bunch of upgrades, like a Master Sword and a bunch of other stuff. And so I'm wondering, are they going to bring these to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System online?
I hope so.
I imagine they would, because and I hope they do, because they were cool remixes, and I feel like there's more they could do with Super Nintendo.
That's exactly right. I feel like there is actually so much you could do with these games.
Yeah,
like surely they would.
These are bigger games. There's a lot more to them. There's a lot more remixes they could do to this. I would love to play, even just do the same to the Link to the Past. Bring that back with a bunch of upgrades right from the start. Just remix versions of these, I think, is one, easy for them to do. When we're talking about pushing out more games, you know what I mean? They could, if they just did 3 games every 3 months, and then 6 games every 3 months, but made 3 of them the special editions, all of a sudden you're like, it feels like you're doubling that to 6, even though you're not really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I get what you mean. Like, it does a little bit, because it's like, well, it's the same game, but it's got some differences, some new things that you weren't expecting.
I couldn't imagine them not doing this.
Yeah,
just for how easy it is for them. I would imagine it's fairly easy for them to just do little tweaks.
Surely it would be.
Just start halfway through the game. Here's a code where you start at this point of the game. Here's a code where you'd start from hard mode of this game right from the start.
Yep.
Or you start this RPG with 1,000 more coins of gold bars. I don't know.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And I feel like, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. We'll see.
Yes.
The next burning hot question I have for you, Nintendo, is are we ever getting N64 or Game Boy or just any of these other consoles? And the reason I ask this is that, is this going to be replacing Virtual Console? Because if it is, then I would kind of hope that we eventually see Game Boy, N64, like God, the Wii U, that went all the way up to DS games it was getting at one stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it did.
And so, like, if this is replacing that service, if they don't give those games, like, in part of the service somehow, it means that we're never going to see them again until, like, we get mini versions of the consoles or something else. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I can see them bringing 64 and, like, Game Boy over, like, surely. But anything higher than that is probably a bit of a... we probably won't see them on the online.
Like, even N64 feels like a stretch for the online. I don't know what they're planning there. I hope so. Like, I hope we do see them, but it does feel like it's almost a bit of a stretch if we do see them or not.
I feel Game Boy is definitely something that could come.
Yeah, same here. Like that's at the lower end. That's definitely something I could see. N64 as well. Like I could hopefully see.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think we'll see it.
But then that brings up the next question, Nad. Like, what would we pay more for that?
I know, it's tricky because, like, obviously now we're getting more games on more systems.
Like, at
is
some
the
point,
price going to jump?
Well, at some point, we're going to have, like we have the 20 SNES games at the moment, all those NES games. At some point, we're going to have 40 SNES games and even more NES games. And you put on 64 on there and maybe start throwing Game Boy, and all of a sudden Nintendo's like, hey, we need more cash for this. Like, God, we were charging people X amount for this in the past, and now they're getting away with like $20 a year or whatever.
It'd be interesting, like, if they did put the price up, if you could pick, like, a plan. So, for example, if you just want a Nintendo 64 games, you just pay for that plan and you just play those ones.
Yeah. I feel like they messed up right from the start here.
Yeah.
Like, just a little bit, because I feel like they could have just charged for different tier plans right from the start. Don't have this as part of your online service. In fact, you know what? Don't even... First of all, stop charging for online, guys. You're not doing it right, first place. But, like, second of all, just have these as tiers from the start that people could just, just have these as what people like to call the Netflix situation, or, like, their virtual console of the Netflix. That's the word I'm looking for. God, I don't even know what it's called. That's how I want to use it.
Apparently not.
But like have that type of style, but they have certain tiers, like you say. You go for your SNES tier and NES tier, which you already would have had, and then N64 and everything else.
Yeah, maybe then you have like your gold tiers, which that includes everything.
Exactly. But like it almost feels like they've already missed that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know whether they will. It kind of sets an expectation now. If they release N64, I'll be like, well, how many 64 games are you giving me to increase my price by $10 a year or something?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's interesting to see how Nintendo's going to go with this, or maybe they will stop at SNES. Maybe they're like, well, this is it. We're not actually going to put any other consoles on here.
I hope not. I want my wireless N64 controller that I can buy from their online system.
I know. I'm sure everybody wants that because everyone's Nintendo 64 controllers are probably all, got a droopy analog stick. So everyone's probably waiting for new 64 controllers.
My next question for Nintendo here, Nat. Did you kill the mini consoles with this? Did they kill them?
Oh, that's a tricky one because, like, obviously the mini SNES and NES have already been out. They've had their run, so Nintendo's like, sure, we'll put them on the online. Whereas, exactly, there's been no more since. So it's like, if they bring out a mini Nintendo 64, they might be like, well, there's no point in having that online until the console's maybe been out for a year or two. Then we might throw it on.
Yeah, like I just can't imagine them bringing out N64 and then throwing this on the online system as well. Like they've already created this kind of the two different ecosystems. I know they have slightly different lineups, but they're still very similar, you know what I mean? As far as the ecosystem and what you're trying to do there. The novelty is obviously different, but I don't know if we'll see any more mini consoles at this stage now.
Well, that's really disappointing. Like, if that is the end of them, that's actually really sad.
I say that, but they were a roaring success.
Exactly, they were. So, especially when the NES first came out, they sold out everywhere. It was bedlam trying to get one.
So maybe the mini consoles is where we will see the N64 and the Game Boy and stuff like that go in the future, before they even think about bringing them to the online service. Maybe that is the direction. Maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong. It's not going to the online system. It's going in that direction, which is why they have the online for these games now.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. I mean, I definitely hope we still see mini consoles in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I have one more burning hot question. No, sorry to scare you.
That's all right.
Actually, I have two here. My next burning hot question is, will they take away any games from this service? So they're giving us a service now. They got all these games on there. It's going to build and build, as we've been mentioning.
Eventually, what you mean.
Eventually those 20 games are going to turn into 40 games. Eventually those however many NES games they have now are going to turn into however many more. At some point, are they going to start saying, all right, we're going to start taking away games every now and then?
That's interesting because, like all these TV services, like Netflix, Stan, all those sorts of ones, they do actually do that. Like after a while, shows will roll off them. They will. So it is interesting to know that when the library does maybe get too big, if they will start actually taking some away, like maybe the ones that aren't played as much, or...
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. And like, it does worry me that maybe they'll get a backlash at the stage when they start saying, all right, guys, we only had it. And like, this is a really big possibility here, because the third parties, they might have had only like a certain time of a contract that they signed with a deal.
That's
it
true.
goes, it goes on the online service for a certain amount of time before it gets taken down. And maybe those contracts will run out at some stage, and maybe they will start taking games down to replace them with other ones, and we could see that in the future. Like I said, maybe they only want the library to be so big, or can get,
Yeah, you definitely do make a good point there. I mean, because technically us, we're only renting them anyway, so there is nothing really to stop them from taking them off.
Exactly. We're not buying these games. We are just paying for a service that we can play these games on.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing stopping them from cutting that in half one day or doing anything. They can, obviously it makes it less worth it, but there's nothing stopping them.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see if they do that, and what the reception from people would be like.
Yeah, that's a wait and see. I hope they don't pull a move like that. But
hopefully not.
But like I said, this library just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And then even when the next console comes out, they've got stuff to think about. Like, are they going to port these all across? Are they going to refresh from that stage? What is the online going to mean? There's so many questions, but that's looking too far in the future, so I'm not going to go there.
No, exactly. Maybe they will just do SNES and NES, and they're like, well, we won't worry about that too much because we've only got 2.
Yeah. Now, my last question, Natch, that is on fire, I don't know why they're so burning hot, is this an excuse to not fix Nintendo's online system?
So what, you think them just throwing more games at people, Nintendo thinks, well, people may forget about online because here, we've just given you new SNES games. Well, enjoy.
I'm happy with my $20. I'm happy with what I'm spending for those games. I'm still not happy with it online, but I'm happy with what I'm spending. So they've got me. And I feel like there's a lot of other people they've got because they're like, well, SNES games, I'll pay $20 a year for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. You don't think about all the other stuff. You just think about, $20 for some SNES and NES games. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't even think twice about that other stuff. But it's like it said, it worries me that this is like, you guys are happy now. Exactly.
Don't worry about fixing, Mario Maker Online. Don't worry about like making the actual online infrastructure a better service from this. You guys are getting SNES games. Stop complaining. It's like, no.
It's like, you don't understand, Nintendo. We want you to fix that also.
I'd like both.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't just throw a blanket over the other one and pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
Like, fix that one as well.
So it brings up a question about the value of it all in the end anyway, but to me the value is worth it because I just want to play those games, but it worries me that we're not going to see an improvements to the other side of things.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's another game that we like to play, Nat, called the wait and see game.
Exactly. There's been a lot of it this episode, actually.
There has been.